Rome's legions were built to crush anything in front of them. But in the desert, there was nothing in front. Only distance, sun, and riders who never stood still. The untold truth behind Carrhae is simple and brutal. Arrogance met a machine of cavalry, composite bows, and endless stamina. You'll see why tactics and logistics, not heroics, decided everything. We'll break down the choices that doomed Crassus, the Parthian system that shredded formations without touching them. In the aftermath, Rome tried and failed to bury. Watch for the secret supply trick, the psychological trap, and the legacy Rome could never erase. Crassus marched east chasing prestige, money, and a shortcut to greatness. The Republic expected another easy conquest, another province to tax. But the desert doesn't care about reputation. It starves armies, burns patience, and rewards only those who can move, resupply, and vanish. Why did Rome misread Parthia so badly? Infantry bias. They believed dense, disciplined foot soldiers win every fight because in Italy, Greece, and Gaul, they usually did. They mocked horse archers as skirmishers, not decision-makers. They ignored the logistics of the steppe, remount strings, dispersed supply, and the simple math of arrows outranging Pila. That blindness was fatal. Meanwhile, Parthia had exactly what the terrain demanded. Professional horse archers with composite bows, armored cataphracts for shock, riders with spare horses to keep speed high, and camel trains rolling ammunition to the edge of battle. Mobility plus ammunition depth. That combination beats formation discipline in open ground because you can't stab what you can't catch. Here's where the decisions turn deadly. Crassus refused safer, water-secure routes, chasing speed in a decisive set piece. He trusted dubious local guidance that pulled the legions off predictable paths and into exposed flats. He overextended columns, thinned his screens, and treated reconnaissance like a chore instead of life support. The result? The army walked itself into a place where the enemy picked the distance, the angle, and the timing. Look at the tools. Roman pila and scuda are optimized for closing and breaking formations. Heavy shield, javelin volley, step in with the gladius. It's a machine designed to smash through a line that stands and trades. The Parthian composite bow is the opposite philosophy. Laminated wood, horn, and sinew engineered to store energy and deliver it fast, accurate, and repeatable from a moving horse. It doesn't meet you, it bleeds you. This is what clicked. In open, dry ground, range and tempo decide contact. Rome marched to find a battle. Parthia prepared a system to drain them first. And once the system starts, stopping it is the hard part. Formations win only if they can force contact. On the flats near Carrhae, the Parthians made contact optional. That's the terror. You advance and the enemy retreats. You hold and the enemy rains arrows. Either way, you're reacting, not deciding. The opening shock sets the tone. Parthian riders glide forward, flick a feigned withdrawal, then snap into an arrow storm. Thousands of shafts hiss in, aimed at gaps, edges, and thirst. Roman cohorts step to advance, expecting the usual crunch. Instead, the line stalls under continuous fire that doesn't break, doesn't thin, doesn't run out. But here's the detail that will blow your mind. The infinite arrows trick. Camel-borne resupply circling behind the shooters, delivering full quivers on demand. Horse archers peel off, rearm, and re-enter, so the sky stays lethal. There's no lull, no timing window. The tempo is Parthian by design. Surge, refresh, repeat. Now the famous solution, testudo. Shields lock overhead. It works until it doesn't. Protection buys time, but it also buys paralysis. You can't see signals. You can't sprint. Heat builds under the shell. Every minute drains water, strength, and nerve. Orders blur. The officers lose the field, and the archers keep plucking at ankles, hips, and the small exposed faces at the edges. Then the hammer arrives. Cataphracts, armored head to hoof, time their charges on winded cohorts. Not constant, not reckless, calculated. Pin with arrows, smash with lances, then break off before Pila can bite. The Romans brace, but the sequence is misaligned. By the time they're ready to throw, the riders are already curving away. The thing most people miss is the simple geometry of range management. The Parthians hover just beyond Pila reach, always inside lethal bow distance. It's a math problem Rome can't solve without speed. Let's get close on the gear. The composite bow, layered horn and sinew, stores more energy per inch than a simple wood bow. From horseback, a trained archer can keep a drumbeat of shots that punish any gap. Cataphracts armor, scale or lamellar, soaks glancing blows and blunts the gladius in a frontal press. You need to pull a rider down or catch him stationary. Neither happens if he controls range. Rome tries counters. A cavalry sortie bursts out, light on remounts, heavy on hope, and gets isolated, then shattered by arrows and a timed cataphract intercept. Light troops push forward, but they're outranged and outrun. The shield walls hold, shrink, and erode. Death by shock and bleed. Small victories, an archer dropped here, a rider skewered there. Don't change the tempo. The Parthians reset at will. The Romans can't reset anything. Logistics becomes a weapon. Sun, dust, water denial. The riders press hardest at noon when leather burns and throats seize. That's not cruelty, it's scheduling. You can plan pain. The morale curve dips fastest when water carriers don't return. I've seen this pattern in accounts again and again. Once the supply rhythm breaks, discipline turns brittle. Here's a micro story that explains the psychology. A cohort holds perfect formation for hours, rotating shields, rotating front ranks for breath. They expect relief. They expect someone to say forward. Instead, water jars run dry. Runners don't come back. Arrows keep coming. The first man slips out to find a clearer breath, then two more step, then the line flexes. No contact, no heroics, just heat and math. And morale melts before swords ever cross. Command and control disintegrate inside the shell. Signals are muffled under shields. Officers can't see the cavalry arcs. Messengers take longer, then stop arriving. The tempo shifts completely to Parthian cadence. They move, they choose angles. Rome responds late, then later, then not at all. The game changer nobody talks about is battlefield tempo control. The Parthians have three speeds: close and sting, drift and bleed, crash and break. They choose which one you get, and every cycle they rearm from the camel trains, re-aim at the edges, and reset the pressure. The Romans only react, burning energy for zero gain. Crassus tries to pause the storm with night. Darkness promises a reset. He hopes to regroup, reconnect with his son's force, and find the river. But night in the desert is not mercy. It's friction. Units misalign. Messages misfire. Dawn doesn't reveal a path out. It reveals the same circle, the same riders, the same bowstrings, refreshed. The collapse is never one moment. It's a chain. A cohort pulls back to dress the line, and Parthians surge into the gap. A standard wavers. A commander falls. Someone runs for water, someone runs for shade, and in the dust they look the same. Withdrawals go piecemeal, hunted by riders who refuse to get trapped. The eagles, symbols Rome defined itself by, are targeted because symbols break minds as much as bodies. Standards fall, the field becomes fragments. Survivors scattered toward the river, chased by shadows that don't need to catch them to kill them. The battle ends when there's no formation left to kill. And yet the humiliation doesn't end here. What truly shook Rome was the message that came after. The proof that the invincible could be unmade by distance, supply, and speed. When the dust settled, Rome didn't just lose soldiers, it lost senior command. Authority snapped. Political shockwaves ripped through the Republic. The news from the East wasn't a defeat report, it was an indictment. The Parthian king gained instant prestige. The message to every frontier was clear. The legions could bleed. The wound wasn't only tactical, it was psychological. Eagles were captured. For Rome, those standards weren't decorations, they were identity. Seeing them in foreign hands burned deeper than casualties. It said, the system can fail, the myth can crack. And once a myth cracks, enemies test it, allies question it, and citizens argue over who let it happen. What terrified Rome most wasn't enemy numbers. It was a style of war they couldn't force to stand and fight. The Parthians dictated distance, schedule, and stress. Rome had built a machine for short, decisive collisions. The desert rewarded slow pressure, ammunition depth, and denial of contact. That mismatch changed policy discussions more than any speech. Modern scholars cut through the drama and point to the three converging edges: tactical mismatch, a structural logistics advantage, and leadership failure. Tactically, horse archers with remounts and cataphracts out on open ground were the wrong opponent for infantry-first doctrine. Logistically, camel-borne resupply and water-savvy maneuver turned range into a renewable resource. In leadership, overconfidence and poor reconnaissance amplified every weakness. The ripples didn't stop at morning. Rome adjusted. Over time, you see more cavalry emphasis, better missile support, and grittier respect for Eastern mobility warfare. Not imitation, adaptation. Commanders started valuing scouting, screening, and counter-harassment. They learned to bait, to anchor on rough ground, to make the desert work for them instead of against them. Carrhae became the warning label stamped on every Eastern plan. Don't march heavy into open desert without range, water, and tempo. It sat in the back of commanders' minds like a scar. The legacy wasn't a single reform, it was a checklist. Where are the remounts? Where's the water? Who controls distance? If those answers were wrong, plans changed. And still, Rome couldn't fully bury it, because Carrhae wasn't a fluke. It was a system loss, mobility, ammunition depth, denial of contact. Those three levers turned an invincible army into a slow target. That lesson outlived the men who learned it the hard way. If you remember nothing else, remember this: mastery of range, supply, and tempo can erase reputation before swords ever cross.